the first episode of Tomboy in the Grass. I am Frank, and with me is my good homie, Marty. Marty, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. You know, this is kind of our test run, because we don't talk in microphones very often, and we're both very socially awkward people who stay pretty secluded. Before we get into what this specific episode is about, I'll just kind of go into what this is. Like, what is this podcast? What is Tallboy in the Grass? Well, Tallboy in the Grass is a podcast that we've talked about doing since probably 2016 or 2017, when we were in the drive-thru of a Taco Bell, and we saw
KFC.
Oh, obviously. I mean, you gotta get. I'm there for the KFC, and then I get a Baja Blast. So, we saw an empty Tallboy sitting in a patch of grass by the drive-thru, and we're like, "Oh, Tallboy in the Grass. Oh, that'd be a great name for a podcast." Here we are, 5-6 years later, finally doing it. So we're just gonna talk about stuff that we want to talk about. We'll try to do scripted stuff, maybe do unscripted stuff every once in a while. The big thing is just talk about whatever we want to talk about. So if the scripted stuff doesn't really work out well for us, or a guided thing doesn't really work, then we could switch, because, this is all new for us. Alright, so now we're going to introduce ourselves a little bit. Marty, you go ahead, kick things off. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Obviously I know.
Where do I start? I am a retired loadmaster from the Air Force. 28-year-old nerd. Play a lot of video games, watch movies. I'm a father of 2 girls. And yeah, that's really about it.
All right. You did say Louisiana, right?
No.
Oh, there you go. He's a LSU boy, so any of you Go Tiger people, he's your guy.
That's right.
Let's see. All right, now it's my turn, I guess. I'll have to talk about who I am and what I'm about. I'm Frank.
Completely unprepared for that, by the way.
We're both pretty unprepared for this, but that's part of the fun of it, is learning and getting through it together. I'm Frank. I am also a ex-Air Force loadmaster. I'm sure everybody that knew me in the Air Force, if they hear this, will belittle me for it for the rest of my life.
You can hear them saying, "Damn it, Frank," already.
Yep, I can hear it for all of time. But that's cool. I'm a Jesus freak, a dad, a recent dad. Only a few weeks ago I became a dad. So this podcast will hopefully grow with my firstborn. What else about me? Not much. I'm a nerd too. 27. I like nerdy things, but I also like tractors and, especially Kubota. You don't beat Kubota.
Damn sure.
I like video games and all that. We may go into a gaming channel at some point and try that. We'll see where it goes. But for now, we're going to get started on this. For our very first episode of this podcast, we are going to be discussing a movie, because there's a sequel to it coming out. And that movie is Avatar. And no, not that weird one where everybody shoots rocks and fire and stuff at each other. The other weird one where everybody's blue. Pocahontas in space meets the Smurfs meets Ferngully. So, Marty, you just recently rewatched it. Did you see it before?
Yeah, I saw it in 2009.
2009, yeah. When you saw it in 2009, how did it impact you? How do you feel about it?
I thought it was a great movie. It was visually just beautiful to look at. I wouldn't say that I was super obsessed with it, as I know a lot of people were, but I could definitely see the beauty in it and how it became the highest grossing film.
Yeah. Now, when I watched it, coming from at the time, very outspoken, annoying Republican household, so even though my parents had never seen it or knew anything about it, they just called it communist because that's what Fox News told them to call it, or whoever it was at the time. And so I was like, oh man, I don't want to watch this stupid commie movie. But then me and my buddy were like, hey, you want to go to the movies? And we're like, okay. And so we went and saw it. His parents took us, and we saw it in IMAX, which that was my first time ever seeing any 3D movie. And I'm telling you right now.
Wait, just IMAX or 3D IMAX?
Well, IMAX 3D. IMAX 3D.
Okay.
It was my first time ever seeing a 3D movie. And it was, you know me. I'm a little jumpy. I'm a little weird. Okay. That's not Avatar is not where you go for your first time seeing 3D. Especially if you don't like things like really coming at your face. I remember the part where he's fighting that giant thing. Oh gosh,
Like a panther thing.
Yeah, like the big old panther guy that uses the T-Rex roar a lot.
Yeah.
And that thing coming at me in the screen when I'm, a kid, I did not like it very much. And so I spent the majority of that movie with my hands over my eyes and my ears and just peeking. But I still enjoyed it. But yeah, I thought, there was like bullets flying past my head. And, I'm just some dumb little trailer trash white boy. And so I was freaking out a little bit. So, I enjoyed it. The story at the time to me was relatively fresh because I didn't watch the million other things that had used that story, like Last Samurai, Last of the Mohicans, Pocahontas, Dances with Wolves. Back then, if you wanted to make a high-grossing film, you took a white guy who worked for the government, you put that guy in a place where he's not from, all right? Then he falls in love with the local people and then wants to become one of them and then fights the white government. You got yourself a recipe for a movie right there. And, to be fair to Avatar, it really wasn't trying to break any new ground when it came to plot. It all about technology. It was all about look at this 3D, look at the motion capture and all this other stuff. So I'll give it a pass on being a slightly reused plot because everything else in it was so good. And James Cameron, the fact that he's been drawing pictures from Pandora since he was in like middle school. So there's a lot of passion that went into that movie, so I can appreciate that. Rewatching it, did you get the same feeling that you got?
I would say I almost got it more. I think I enjoyed it more rewatching it than I did originally. Yeah. Well, I'm also a different person than I was in 2009.
That's true. Yeah.
The way I watched it, I looked at, more details that I probably missed when I was a kid. Like the little helicopter lizard things. Yeah. I completely forgot about those. But rewatching it, I was like, man, that's cool. That's cool.
Another great thing about rewatching it is he came out with not one, but 2 separate extended editions. So they came out with the extended edition. I don't know what year that was. But then a couple of years later, we're like, let's do an extended edition. And so there's a version that's got I think it was 16 minutes more. It's not anything crazy, but I do not remember any of the extra bits whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen those.
I do own them. I got them because I was at the BX in San Antonio and they had put the wrong price on them. And so I got them for 10% of what they were supposed to be sold as. Which is not the first time that's happened. I got the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy in Blu-ray, and the box said $10 on it. And when they scanned it, it was like, no, this is $70, $80. I'm like, no, it's not. It is. Come follow me. Follow me.
Sticker don't lie.
Exactly. So they ended up giving me for the cheaper price then too. I got lucky. But I rewatched it recently. I feel like I appreciate the story more, but I definitely don't have the same feeling from the awe and the wonder of the 3D environment, from watching it in 3D or just watching it in theaters in general. But I feel like there's very few things that would be better to watch outside of the movie theaters. Maybe TV series would probably be kind of annoying to go to the movies and watch every time.
Sure.
But depends on the TV series. I mean, I'm telling you, whenever Game of Thrones, like season 6 was going on, I would have gone to the movie theater to watch that every Sunday.
Completely different than where I was thinking. I was thinking, you know what? I'd go to the theater every Friday and watch the new Forged in Fire.
No, I mean, we can watch Forged in Fire. Imagine watching Forged in Fire in like IMAX. Man, that'd be great.
Sparks flying out.
Yeah, you could feel it every time they hit that anvil.
Oh.
So the next thing I want to kind of get into is, so we talked about Avatar 1, and the reason why we're talking about Avatar 1 is because Avatar 2 is coming out.
December 16th?
Yeah, December 16th. It'll probably be in theaters at the air quote midnight showings that are at 7 p.m. on Thursday.
Right.
I've got tickets to see it Saturday morning because I don't want to have a babysitter on a Friday night or stay out that late. It's, I think, like 3 hours and 10 minutes long. Do you think this movie is as hyped up as it should be, or isn't hyped up enough, or it's kind of like where it should be?
Well, seeing as how it's been 13 years since the first one came out, I would say it's probably about where I would expect it to be.
Yeah.
You know, if it had come out 2 years after the original, I think the hype would be a lot higher right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I expect it to be a really great movie, but, you know, after 13 years, like, a lot of people just lose sight of what they're going to watch.
Right. James Cameron was actually confronted about this a little bit recently because people were like, nobody knows who Jake Sully is, but everybody knows who Luke Skywalker is. And if they came out with a movie 13 years after the last Star Wars and they're like, Luke Skywalker's back, everybody, oh my gosh, that's Luke Skywalker. But James Cameron had a pretty good point. He was like, okay, well, there's only one Avatar movie, and there were 3 Star Wars movies, and then even now,
all within, what, 5 years of each other?
77, and then the 81 or 82. I don't know. I can't remember when there was a bit of time between the first and second one. I don't remember when the third one came out. I wasn't alive back then, so I'm pretty sure episode 1 was like 99, and then 2 was like 2002, and then 3 was 2005. I do remember 3 being 2005 because I was in the 5th grade, and my teacher was told by her husband that he had made her a classical music mixtape, or whatever you want to call it, a disc, because she wanted to play classical music while we did our work. And she starts playing it, and it's like Battle of the Heroes or whatever, whenever Obi-Wan is fighting Anakin. And for some reason, I've always been very impacted by music. And so that song starts playing, and I'm like hurting inside because I feel the pain of Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting each other. And I'm like, lady, this ain't classical music. This came out a few months ago in a movie. You're listening to the Star Wars Episode 3 soundtrack. And she's calling me an idiot. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
She's got a point. It's an instant classic.
It was an instant classic, but at the same time, it's like, she's like, this ain't Star Wars. My husband made this for me. I'm like, your husband fooled you, stupid. Oh, man. But the hype for Avatar 2, to me, I mean, yeah, I feel like it's where it should be, considering it's been 13 years, and it not like it's coming from a huge franchise. It's that one movie, and there's been so much that's gone on in that last 13 years between Star Wars and Marvel and DC and all the other like nerdy things that's out there. But at the same time, those are all like derivative, you know? I mean, they come from the comic books, or they're playing off of past success, where this movie franchise, at least the original Avatar, was a completely unique thing. And so I mean, it's going to take time to make that, especially the way James Cameron keeps inventing new technology to film these movies. So I don't see a lot of hype for this movie without, like, outside of specifically nerdy areas like YouTube, but I'm feeling hyped for it. The more interviews I watch about it, and the more scenes, I guess, trailers and teasers, all that, I mean, they're working on me, so I'm hyped. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 17 hype. I don't know what that means, but that's what I'm giving it. So let's talk about some fun facts about Avatar.
All right.
A little Frank's facts section. Jake's legs in that movie. So he's paraplegic.
Yep.
Obviously, he's not paraplegic in real life. Sam Worthington is a beautiful man and main character of Call of Duty Black Ops. How do you think they pulled off those legs? Like, you remember how they were all gross and skinny? Mm-hmm. And how do you think they did that?
Sweatsuit? I don't know.
So, they weren't his real legs, or he wouldn't be able to walk, first of all. My immediate thought when I was thinking about it was, they just CGI the legs off. Like, that's what I've always thought. It's like they put a bunch of...
It's too simple.
Yeah, it's like they just put, like, green tights on his waist down and then just CGI'd him out. No. They took an actual paraplegic person. They molded their legs. Made a prosthetic using the mold of an actual paraplegic, and then just stuck them under Sam Worthington. So Sam Worthington isn't actually sitting in the wheelchair. He's kneeling, and his knees are below the seat level, and then the legs go up to his waist.
Nice.
And so he's just got these other guys, actual paraplegic, floppy legs sit in front of him. Practical effect, which, good for them, going practical with it. And it gave somebody who's handicapped a nice little paycheck. I'm sure it was a decent paycheck. It has to be.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Michael Biehn?
Mr. Bean?
Nope. Spelled differently. The better Mr. Bean, the Biehn Bean. So Michael Biehn, big James Cameron actor. He was in Terminator as Kyle Reese, and then he was in Aliens. He was one of the Marines. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Kyle Reese.
Yeah. He was just in Mandalorian too. He was the guy with the shotgun blaster, like the first shotgun blaster in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Michael Biehn was supposed to play Colonel Quaritch in Avatar. He was actually picked up for that role before Sigourney Weaver was picked up for her role. And then he helped write the character and develop the character. And then when Sigourney Weaver was up to play her character, James Cameron fired Michael Biehn because he didn't want people to think it's just an Aliens movie.
I could see that.
So there's a fun fact. Unless you're Michael Biehn, then it's a pretty crappy one.
The guy that they cast for Quaritch, I think he did a great job.
Oh, Stephen Lang is fantastic. To be fair, I've only seen him in like 2 or 3 things, not very many things at all. Tombstone, he was a minor character in Tombstone. Obviously, Avatar, he did an amazing job. Terra Nova, a little underrated television show about dinosaurs and people. He was pretty good in that too. He basically played the exact same character from Avatar. He just wasn't a bad guy.
Just a good old American. Huh?
It's like, it's the same thing, right? But instead of them going to a different planet, they went back in time, right? So there's a group of humans that go back in time so they can try to colonize ancient Earth because they just destroy the environment. And this is like, so far in the future. So the air's toxic on Earth and there's no room because there's too many people and it's just miserable and everybody's going to die. And so they're like, oh, why don't we just send people back in time and colonize different times? Cool concept. I don't know how that...
Maybe the dinosaurs?
Well, they got guns. They helped against some of the dinosaurs. But it was a good show. I definitely recommend you watch it, considering that you have a dog named Terra and a dog named Nova, and the show's called Terra Nova.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another little fact. Okay. So do you remember when they were showing the school for the Na'vi that Sigourney Weaver had made and taught the kids English? Mm-hmm. So in that scene, there is a copy of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, which is another story about somebody getting evicted from their tree. So
A little foreshadowing.
a little foreshadowing there.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, no, these are our trees. And then our final fact for this this film franchise, if I can find it, is Jurassic Park. So this movie's connected to Jurassic Park, you know, like most things. So the sound designers from this movie were the sound designers from Jurassic Park. And instead of being creative and making new things for this new world where everything else has been made from scratch, they just recycled what they created for Jurassic Park, which you can hear a lot in the, oh gosh, it's going to bother me that I don't remember that thing. The giant six-legged one. All right, the mean meat eater, big one that she comes and rides at the end. It had the T-Rex roar.
Right.
I'm pretty sure the Flyers,
Yeah,
the Banshees.
Yeah, they had the Velociraptor, like screech or whatever.
They had something. But the funny thing,
even the horses had
the horses.
Yeah.
So that sound that the horses made is from the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park. But if I'm not mistaken, that sound for Jurassic Park was made by the whatever they're called, the guys who recorded the animals, from a horse in heat. So it still came from a horse.
Interesting.
So now you know what a horse in heat sounds like. Watch Jurassic Park, and you'll definitely hear. All right, this is editing Frank right here. It was not a horse. It was a mating tortoise. Just as weird, just not a horse. Now back to the podcast. But you know, that's not the only way. That's not the only way. That's a pretty easy connection. The much better connection is Avatar was finally put in production because James Cameron had just been waiting for the technology, right? And then Lord of the Rings came out, and he saw what they did with mocap. He's like, time for Avatar. All right, I gotta go in there. I gotta make my Avatar now. But Lord of the Rings got put into production because Peter Jackson was like, man, I'm waiting for this good CGI, you know. I mean, he doesn't know what it's going to be CGI, but I'm waiting for something, you know, to push me over there. And that something was CGI. CGI invented by Jurassic Park. So if Jurassic Park didn't happen, then Lord of the Rings wouldn't have been made, which wouldn't have inspired James Cameron to finally start production on Avatar. So there you go.
Lord of the Rings not being made would have been the much more impactful thing for me.
Yeah. Oh, I have to read the books. Oh, I hate books, especially Tom Bombadil. You don't even make any sense. So there you go. Those are Frank's facts for Avatar. And with that, I think we're about wrapped up with Avatar for the night. For all those who listen to this, thank you for listening, especially to our first episode. We're rusty, but we'll get in the flow and we'll get comfortable. I want to thank all of our family and friends too, because they're giving us the opportunity to come out and do this with each other and hang out and just BS and supporting us. So thank you to them, and to especially to God for even putting us in the positions where we are now, where we are friends and we have the means to do this, and the people around us to support us. If you would like to, subscribe, and then follow us on whatever podcast streaming app you like. We'll try to get them to as many as possible, if not all of them. If you have any ideas on what we could do an episode about, feel free to comment, let us know. But until we get those opinions, Marty, what do you think we should do for the next episode?
I don't remember.
All right. You son of a...
Maybe in the future I should get a script.
All right. Hold on. Just take notes. So give us a little tease. Maybe not say exactly what it is. Just a little taste, a little tease.
Well, you know, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I think we're going to get involved with a little bit of soap and maybe a ghost.
Oh, soapy ghosts. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. Tall Boy in the Grass. Thanks again, everybody. Goodbye.